I thought for a minute you would be putting up my friend Gene Robinson, who's a PhD in bees. He works at the University of Chicago, and he's been a researcher all his life. Me and Gene and my friend Ishai, when we were young and in our 20s, we raised bees together, and we all had collections of honey, all different flavors of honey from all over the world, because bees have something called flower fidelity. And that means that when they go out to a field, there are scout bees that will go out and say, there are clover blossoms over yonder. And they'll tell all the worker bees to go there. And so all the worker bees just obey, and they collect only the pollen and the nectar from that one flower. And so when you collect the honey from that hive, if you're, as a beekeeper, if you know where the bees have been working, you can then bottle it and say this is clover honey, or fireweed, or raspberry, or all these things. And they all have distinct flavors. It's very fascinating.
Could you explain the little bee dance that they do? I didn't have time to incorporate it in my speech, but I thought it was quite amusing.
When the scouts go out to find their sources of nectar, they come back to the hive and they actually do a little dance. They ground and go like this, you know, and somehow from that information, that's how the other bees know which direction to fly and how far and what kind of a flower to go to. All right. So now, sometimes we are called upon to stand up in front of a group of people and talk about something we were not planning to talk about. So today, we're going to have Christy, and she is going to take her first crack at being our table topics master. And I would say, Christy, why don't you run it about 15 minutes if you can stretch it out?
Great.
So she'll give us a topic and we can take 1 to 2 minutes to respond.
Mr. Toastmaster and fellow guests and Toastmasters. So one of my favorite films is the movie Aladdin, and it's a Disney animation. In the film, Robin Williams plays a genie who tells the young boy, Aladdin, to come up with 3 wishes. So what I'd like to ask you all is, if you could have 3 wishes, what would they be and why? So I'm going to call on Linda for this one.
Madam Table Topics Master, fellow Toastmasters, and Dong Lin, our guest today, Tabitha guest. Well, I'd have to go back to when I just turned 8 years old. My twin brother and I watched the parade in Hobart, Indiana, where we were, and little did we know, in about a month our father would be dead. And so one of my wishes would be that he had lived, because I think our life would be so different. Another wish, if I could live my life again, is, as a woman, I would have started to save money sooner. Tabitha, are you listening? Put away at least 10%. Whenever you get paid, birthday money, whatever. More would be better. When I was teaching in Berkeley, I would just have it deducted from my salary, and I didn't feel the pain at all. Then how would I use it? At that point, I wanted to go to Europe. If I could just have enough money to afford a trip to Europe, I was living. So I would save more. The third wish, I'll leave that to your imagination.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Linda. So this next question, I think, really applies to the Olympic Games. So if any of you have been watching the Olympic Games, there's some magnificent athleticism displayed on our television screens. So what I'd like you to think about, if you could become an Olympic competitor, what event would you participate in and why? So I would like to call our our guest, Dawn Lin, to come up and answer that question.
Thank you, Mrs. Table Master. Well, okay. If I could become a competitor in the Olympic Games, I think I would like to participate in the shooting game. Okay. When I was a teenager, when I was about 15 or 16 years old, I had some chance to play with some pistol, no, that's called air pressured rifle, something like that. And then I think I had a lot of fun, but I didn't really had any chance to really try it for a longer time than I preferred, because it's a rifle owned by a classmate, and I didn't have a long time to try it. I think it will be interesting, okay, because I would like to. I think because shooting would require a person to really relax and pay attention to something, get really focused, okay. And when you are really focused on something, you would totally forget about yourself. So in some sense, it's like a meditation. So I think I would really enjoy that kind of game. Okay. Even though I'm nearly 40 years old, but I believe I may still have the chance. Okay. Thank you.
So as some of you know, I find humor and laughter to be one of the world's best medicine. So I'd like you to think about one of your funniest moments and share that with us. Please?
Could you pass that to somebody else, some sort of...
Absolutely. How about, let me look around the room here. I will call on Ned. We haven't heard from Ned, so why don't we have you come up here again. Think about your funniest moment and share that with us.
Thank you. I'm at a loss. There must be something that was one of my funniest moments, and the other two I was like, I could do that. Let's see, one of the funniest things I ever saw, well, I really love my mom's sense of humor, and she says a lot of very funny things. And there was a funny moment that occurred recently. We were at a dinner party, and we were sitting around on vacation, and someone had a birthday, and we brought out this big gooey birthday cake, which happens to be my mother's favorite dessert. If you scrape the icing off your cake, she'll reach over and take it off your plate. And she loves that, like, birthday cake, wedding cake icing. And so she gets even like a little bit greedy about it. You know, it's the only time I see this come out in her, but it's very funny. And so the cake was cut up after we sang Happy Birthday and passed out, and there was one person at the table who kind of, in my opinion, brought the mood down a little bit by saying, "No, I won't have cake. It's full of bad carbohydrates and sugar." And here we all were about to like dive in and have our piece of cake, you know, and I reached over at that moment feeling a little bit aggravated and just took the corner off the cake and put the whole thing in my mouth. My mom didn't see that, but she was at the other end of the table. But a few minutes later, she turned and spotted the missing corner of the cake, and she said, "Who ate the corner off that cake?" And it was just very funny for all of us because, you know, it's kind of ridiculous. There were other corners and, you know, no big deal. But she was very, you know, upset by that and just kind of absurd and funny. So, thank you very much.
Thank you so much for sharing.